Hi guys, welcome back to Foliage Loft. My name is Liam, and in this week's video I'm going to talk about some tips that are going to help you to take care of your plants while you're on vacation. I have next week off work and I'm going to be going up to a cottage for about 4 or 5 days, so I've been thinking about what I'm going to do to keep my plants healthy and happy while I'm gone. As of recording this video, we're just about to hit the first day of summer, and I'm sure a lot of you are planning on spending some time away from home in the next few months, so I thought some of these tips might also help you. So first off, I'm going to go over some general tips on keeping your plants happy while you're away, and then I'm going to talk about what to do if you're going away for, let's say, 4 to 7 days, and at the end of the video I'll talk about what to do if you're going away for longer than that, something more like 2 or 3 weeks away from home. Let's get right into it. So first, I'm just going to start off by giving some general tips, and I think one of the things that is often overlooked when it comes to plant care is temperature. And if you're heading out of town, your first instinct might be to turn off your AC or turn off your heater, and while this is going to be awesome for your energy bill, it's probably not going to be so great for your plants. I would definitely recommend taking a look at the weather forecast for where you live just before you leave, maybe 2 or 3 days before you leave, and that will give you an idea of what plan of action you're going to take. Because if it is going to be very hot in your area while you're away, your plants could go through some pretty intense temperature stress if the AC is turned off and your windows are closed. And they'll also dry out very quickly in this kind of environment, and especially if it is a dry heat as well. So instead of completely turning off your AC in this situation, you might just want to turn it down a little bit. That way you'll still save some energy on your bill, but your plants aren't going to roast alive. Now, if the temperature is just expected to be fairly warm and not super hot while you're away, you could probably get away with turning off your AC and opening up a few windows just a little bit. That way the temperature inside will be a little bit cooler, especially at nighttime, and your plants are also going to get some airflow as well. Now, on the flip side, if it's going to be quite cold where you live while you're away on vacation, I would recommend to close all your windows for sure, and just make sure your heater is going to turn on once your inside temperature reaches a certain level. And that temperature for most houseplants is going to be about 16 to 18 degrees Celsius. If the temperature inside drops below that level, your plants are probably not going to like it. So hopefully that takes care of the temperature. Now, I wouldn't worry too much about humidity as much as I would about temperature. Temperature is definitely more important, but there are a few things you can do to improve the humidity situation while you're away. First up, you definitely want to make sure that all of your humidifier tanks are filled up and good to go. And if there are certain plants that you're worried about drying out too much while you're gone, you could definitely set up a pebble tray underneath the plant and fill it up with water, and that should improve the humidity levels around that specific plant. And for some of your smaller plants, you could definitely set them up under a cloche, and that will increase the humidity quite a lot. And if you want to get really creative, you could set up a mini greenhouse by using a clear plastic bag and just putting it over your plant. But yeah, I think unless you live in an extremely dry and arid environment like a desert, like say Nevada, I think you should be okay for humidity. I think if your plants are in suboptimal humidity conditions for a short period of time, you don't really have too much to worry about. And one more tip would be to group as many of your plants together as possible, and that's going to increase the general humidity in the area, and the plants are going to kind of feed off of each other's humidity. And finally, let's move on to the thing that you're probably stressing out about the most, and that's watering your plants. Now, this is definitely tricky, but there are some methods and tricks you can use to make sure that your plants don't completely dry out while you're gone. So my main recommendation to deal with this problem is to reach out to someone that you trust with your home and your plants and ask them for some help with watering while you're away. Especially if you're heading away for some time, something like more than a week, this is definitely your best course of action. Just try to make things easy for them, get all your plants together, leave some detailed instructions about which plants will need watering, and if you want, you could even pre-mix your fertilizer with some water, so all they have to do is take the watering can and water the plants. As simple as that. And if they're willing to do all of this for you, make sure you return the favor for them someday, or even get them a small gift like a bottle of wine as a token of your thanks. Now, if this option doesn't work for you, you're going to have to put in a little bit more work to make sure your plants stay hydrated. If you're only going away for a few days or up to about a week, just start thinking ahead and take note of the plants that need to be watered before you leave. And I would just start delaying some of the waterings, especially 4, 5, 6 days out, and try to water them just right before you leave. Most plants are going to be perfectly okay if you delay the watering for just a few days, and especially if this only happens every now and again. So you can take advantage of this by pushing that watering schedule back a little bit and watering your plants closer to the day that you leave, and this way your plants will stay hydrated while you're gone. And when you come back, just make sure you do your rounds and make sure you get on the plants right away, and that way they're not going to be dry for too long. Now, if you're planning on being away for more than a week, it's going to get a little bit more tricky, but there are some tools that you can use to make it easier for you. You could definitely consider something like a self-watering system, and you can buy these pre-assembled. They're fairly inexpensive, not much more than a regular pot. Self-watering systems have a large reservoir in the bottom that you can fill with water, and there's a mechanism inside that will give the soil access to that water. And the soil will only suck up as much water as it needs, so your plant will be perfectly hydrated for a long period of time. You can also make your own self-watering system if you're more budget conscious, and there are plenty of guides here on YouTube that will help you do that. Now keep in mind that this method does require a little bit more work. You're going to be repotting or transferring your soil and your plant to the self-watering system, so do keep that in mind leading up to your vacation. But all that work that you put into transferring to a self-watering system will pay off in the long run, because you won't be worrying about watering your plant every week, and really you only have to fill up that reservoir maybe once every 4 to 8 weeks. It's a much more low maintenance method of taking care of your plants. Now, if a self-watering system sounds like too much work for you, there is another solution, and I actually have one of my subscribers to thank for this information. Her YouTube channel is called Plantine Charlene, and I'll link her channel down below. She has a video where she shows off these things. I believe they're called glass watering globes, and it's basically a glass orb with a long spout, and you would fill it up with water and then stick it into the soil, and then the water would slowly release into the pot over the course of a few days. And after watching her video, I tried to look for these watering globes in some stores near me, but unfortunately a lot of the stores around here are still closed due to the pandemic. But I did find something that was quite similar. So these are self-watering plant stakes, and you can probably see they're made from terracotta. And the idea is that you would stick it into your pot, into the soil, and you would fill up a glass bottle, and then stick the bottle into the stake. You can see the hole in the top here. So you would stick the bottle inside, and then the water would slowly permeate through the porous terracotta, and it would slowly release into the soil. And just like a self-watering pot system, it's going to work in the same way in that the soil isn't going to take more water than it needs, and it's only going to suck up as much water as it wants. And this will work for as long as there is water in that bottle. So obviously if you have a very large pot and a large plant, you're probably going to want to put a larger bottle inside. Something like a wine bottle would work great. But if it's a smaller pot and a smaller plant, you'll probably be fine with something like a 355 millimeter glass bottle. That would work great for this. And these are fairly inexpensive. You can find them just about anywhere. Garden centers should have them, and you can probably find them online as well. If you are going to use some of these methods or some of these tools, I would definitely recommend you set them up a couple of weeks before you go on vacation, just to make sure you don't come back home to either a dead plant or a big mess. So hopefully this video helps you feel more confident if you're leaving town that your plants will be well taken care of. If you did find this video helpful, make sure you hit that like button down below and subscribe to the channel if you're interested in more content like this. I do hope to make a video when I'm up at the cottage, so look out for that one in the coming weeks. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Until next week, see ya.